with us as we continue to work through and read through The Course in Miracles Experiment by Pam Grout. And we are so honored to have the author, Pam Grout, with us today. Pam, welcome to the book club.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and see all your beautiful faces. How nice.
Well, we've been excited ever since we heard that, yes, you would come in and speak with us about this book. And I know, we did some introductions before we went live, and I too am just in love with this book. I've been a Course in Miracles student for many years, but this really puts it into a perspective that's modern and easy. I love easy.
Yeah.
So thank you. And I'm just going to open it up. And if you would like to share some with us, I would love to hear. When we talk to the authors, we'd love to hear like how this happened. How did this book happen for you?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I guess I'll answer that question first. Starting in 2018 on January 1st, like I do every year, I started blogging about doing the Course in Miracles. I go through the 365 lessons every year, and I've been doing this for, 20 some years. And I thought, I had several books where I attracted an audience to my blog. So I thought, I'm going to talk about my journey in the Course in Miracles this year. And I committed to writing about, the lesson each day. And it wasn't maybe 7-8 weeks or 7-8 days in, and I started getting all these messages like, you need to turn this into a book. And, I believe, the Course in Miracles says we're going to get guidance, direct guidance. Holy Spirit will tell us what to do. But it took me a while to hear this because I had to get, maybe about 100 people saying, you need to turn this into a book. And I thought, aha, I think someone wants me to turn this into a book. So I, have written, I guess, 4 or 5 books before this one for Hay House. So I just sent it off to Hay House and I said, hey, I have been summoned to write this book. What do you think? And of course, the editors decided to go with it. And that's sort of how it came into being. And one of the things I think happens when we start practicing the Course in Miracles is we start being open to this guidance, because I believe we're all getting guidance all the time. I mean, it's just always there. But we're so busy listening to the make-believe story, that we've all bought into, that we don't always hear that message. So again, like I said, I had to get, probably 100 some emails and messages before I go, it took me a while to hear that message. But I do believe that once you start practicing these principles, and basically to me, the principles are all about erasing everything else that we know, because this is the natural way of living. In fact, somebody said once, the Course in Miracles isn't hard. It's just so different than the way we typically look at life. We look through the lens of scarcity. We look through the lens of disconnection. We look through the lens of problems. But once we start erasing all those beliefs, we start seeing a whole different reality. So anyway, that's the story of how the book came to be.
I have to say, you said that A Course in Miracles wasn't really hard, and I think we've discussed this prior when we started the book, is I had a tremendous amount of trouble with really getting in my past with getting into the Course in Miracles. There was only bits and pieces that I could get at any one time. One of the things that I really appreciate about your book is that you have made it where I am actually sticking to doing the lessons every day. No other presentation has really brought that. You make it easy to break and chunk it down for those of us that may need to have things in bite sizes. Because I really did feel rather overwhelmed when I tried in the past to get into the original A Course in Miracles. So I just want to say that to you, that you have made it much easier for me to grasp, even though it's still challenging. I'm at least going forward in the lessons instead of going, well, this just doesn't make any sense at all. But the way you have it, like that very first one, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was so grateful that you put down, you don't have to understand it or agree with it, just do it. And I was, that alone helped me. So I just figured I'd share that with you, that I have appreciated. It just is so much easier this time for me. So.
Right. And that's the whole idea, is that we really don't have to get it. We don't have to understand it. We don't have to even like it. But if we do it, we're just basically gently erasing all these beliefs so Holy Spirit can come through. You know, I tend, in little matters called the field of infinite potentiality, you know, this idea that there's infinite possibilities out there. But again, we've narrowed it down, narrowed it down, narrowed it down. So we're only seeing the world that we see now. So I think as we open up to that infinite field of potentiality, and it will do the work. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't really have to do it. That's the thing. You know, we're always so busy. I've got to understand this, and I've got to, you know, figure it out. I mean, this is just the way our world is. That's one of those beliefs that we can erase, that we have to do it all. We are connected. Anything we could possibly want, need to know, whatever, we are connected to already, but we don't realize that. So, you know, we have to sort of eliminate that belief that we're separate, that we don't have access to these things. And that's a really important belief to erase. And like I said, it's all about just erasing all of our beliefs. You know, that's it in a nutshell. In fact, I recently read a book, and I don't know if you guys follow my blog, but I posted about this, and this is like even a step easier than Course in Miracles. But what the guy in this book said, he's a Buddhist teacher, and he said, this is what he says over and over again: this is a dream. This is a dream. So, and I've been saying that a lot, and like even saying it out loud, like, so when I see something that disturbs me, or that looks like I'm separate from somebody else, or looks like a problem, this is a dream. This is a dream. And underneath it all, there is something so much more beautiful and wonderful going on. There is a light beneath the dream. And one of the things in Course in Miracles, like today's lessons, you know, if you're following starting on January 1st, is I am determined to see. I am determined to see. And eventually you do start seeing light around some of the things you're seeing. And that's when you know you're starting to erase some of the other things. So anyway, it's just real simple, and that's today's lessons. But that this is a dream. I mean, anyway, it's just a different way of looking at it. You know how you like to mix it up a little bit. I think that's probably what I'm good at, is mixing it up or making it a little more palatable, or whatever that word is. You know, so that's kind of my I don't know, I guess my role in life. You know, we all have assignments in life. And so my assignment maybe is to make things, you know, kind of appeal to everybody. Some people want to be really serious about it, and they want to, you know, do it in a very somber way, but that's not my MO. And so I think my assignment is more to kind of make it fun. And I always believe that if it's going to be sustainable, and we want it to be sustainable, we want to continue to practice this, it sort of has to be fun. Because if it isn't fun, we'll eventually go, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to do this. In fact, maybe today's lesson might even say something about that. Is, you know, we need to, I mean, in the actual book, the original book, is that we need to make it not so much a task that we have to do, but something we really enjoy doing and look forward to doing.
Yeah, I think it was sorry, Chad, I think it was yesterday's lesson that was like, you know, that said just that. It has to be fun. And I so agree with that. I love it. Charlie, you had a question?
No, I was just going to say today's lesson, and with what's going on today, is it asks to see unity, peace, and joy for all. I mean, come on, you couldn't, you know, oh my God, it's here on this day. I mean, you know, what? I mean, did you plan this? I mean, come on.
When I read that today too, I thought, oh my gosh, how perfect is that? That's so funny. The book was written 2 years ago or whatever it was. And it's like, wow, you know, that's what I love about when you start seeing all the things that are going on behind the scenes. You know, I tell a story in one of my books about Mary Card. You guys know that author. She wrote the book The Liars Club. And anyway, she doesn't write spiritual stuff, although maybe a little bit. She's a very devout Catholic. But she was talking about when she first, you know, decided to believe. She was sort of an agnostic, and little by little, she, you know, and she was an alcoholic, and it's like she knew she needed to see life in a different way. And so she was led, you know, to become a Catholic. But anyway, so she had a spiritual advisor, And the advisor, I think she was a nun or something, but had given her a couple verses for her to follow. She goes, this is what your 2 verses for today, or for this week would be. So during that time, Mary Carr was down at her mother's house, and her mother had been a raging alcoholic, gun-toting alcoholic, but she was down there cleaning out her mother's house, and she'd kind of gotten busy and wasn't doing these 2 lessons that the spiritual advisor had asked her to do. But interestingly enough, she found her mother's old Bible from when her mother was 7 or 8. I mean, this would have been 60 years earlier. And she opens her Bible, and scrawled in blue marker was the very verse that spiritual leader had given her. And so she goes through the Bible and goes to the 2nd verse. Guess what? Those 2 verses, the very verses that this spiritual advisor had given her in, I don't know what year it was, but let's say 2020, or I guess or 2021, it would have been earlier. But anyway, so were written in this Bible 60 years earlier by her mother. I mean, that just gives me goosebumps. I mean, when you really do think about how things are being orchestrated in a much bigger way than we see. And again, that's what we're trying to do, is erase the littleness that we see, because we would say, oh, that's just whatever, but that's the way the world is, those connections and that bigger picture. So anyway, I just love that story. And I think, Charlie, like you said, the fact that this lesson happened to come out on today when we are seeing the unity and all that. So it's like, wow, it is perfect. So thank you for noticing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote down some of the words that I was hearing at the inauguration, and one of them was making friends with enemies. And there is always light if we are brave enough to see it.
I wrote that down too, Mary Lou. I love that about the light. There's always light if we're brave enough to see it. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. I think that your whole sense that I'm experiencing with the book is that the center within us is God, it's light, it's love, it's grace, it's peace, and we only have to claim it. And it doesn't happen only within us. It happens in our mind, in our being, what we say and what we do. And I just, I remember one of the lessons said, we have our brain and we have our mind, and we need to own that. We need to throw away. We need to take our dustbin, our broom and our dustpan, and get the rest out of there, because we don't need that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a good way to say it.
Although it could be easier if we would just get amnesia and have to learn this all over again.
That's true.
Well, maybe that's what we do when we come into these physical bodies, perhaps. It's like, because we kind of knew this, I think. I mean, I think we still know it. It's just that we've covered it up with this other stuff. You know what I mean? It's always there, even when we're not aware of it. The light is coming in. Suzanne, I'm looking at your picture and I just see all that beautiful light on that picture. I don't think that's a window. I think that's a picture, but it's like, that to me is it, right there, all that light shining through. That is there, but we may not be wise enough or brave enough to see it, as that poet had said. So
Yeah, this room is actually too bright right now. I'm like blinded.
Yeah.
Lots of windows.
That's why I like in the book, you really have it bite-sized, like Christina said, because my mind is very analytical and I tend to go deep with everything I read. And I really had to say, no, just be present. Read it and be present and digest it. So I love that it's one day at a time. Otherwise, I would be struggling, honestly. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of what the ego likes to do, make everything so complex. And then we get so wrapped up in unwinding all the complexities that we don't notice the simplicity, the beauty of the light, of the truth, So I think that's one of the ego's biggest tool, make it really complicated, and we all fall for it. So, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm one of those people who've flunked the course a couple of times. I mean, I started it and just got so confused. I stopped. And so I'm really, really appreciating what you've done, because now it's becoming, maybe because it's done in baby steps, or but it's becoming so clear. And actually, it seems complicated, but actually it's so simple. You know, it's what we have to unlearn that is hard, so that we can see the truth that's there. We have to clear out all that other stuff. And I know as a teacher, that's the hardest thing to do as an ex-teacher, to clean out things that have been learned badly. But you know, I was thinking, Mary Lou, you were talking about the inauguration, and there was a word that they used that we call it an illusion, but they said they used the word a mirage. And I think that's what the world has created, is a mirage, that we think we're seeing something, but it's not really there. So I thank you for helping us remove that mirage so we can see reality.
I love that. Thank you for, I watched the inauguration, but I didn't remember hearing that. Isn't it funny how we all hear different things, which is one of the things the court says. But so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is a great word. You can be sure I'll probably be using that in a blog post soon or something, because I like that. And of course I know the concept. I've seen mirages, but anyway, that's just a really cool example, because illusion, what does that mean exactly? But we all know mirage, you're on the desert and you see the water, whatever. So that is really interesting. So yeah.
I love that. Pam, we have a private messenger that we all chat about this book in. And a couple of days ago, it was lesson 17. There was a lot of struggle with that. You guys remember? Everybody was like, I'm so confused. So can you just share with us about that lesson about being neutral? Because I think that was a hard concept.
Lesson 17.
Change your
which one
story
that is?
to life. I see no neutral things.
Okay, because
Positive.
I do not see anything neutral, because I have no neutral thoughts.
Right.
So basically it's a way of training our mind to recognize that what we're seeing is what our brain is constructing. Because really, if you break the world down, with quantum physics, we're all just these clouds of energy, basically. But then we draw in the lines. It's almost like a dot to dot. We draw in the lines according to what our beliefs are. So the reason we see nothing neutral is because we're seeing through the, the filter of our beliefs and expectations. And again, there's so much more there, but we have narrowed it down. The brain itself is kind of called a reducing valve. And the brain's entire job is to try to keep us safe. So it keeps going to the past. It keeps going to what we think we know. And again, it constructs a mirage. Thank you, Jean. and it to make us believe that we're seeing something. So I guess the fact that we see no neutral things is because we're seeing with our brains instead of seeing with Holy Spirit's eyes, with the light. If we can see with the light, then it still won't be neutral, but it will be a much more beautiful thing to look at. So, it's impossible to have a neutral thought or to see a neutral thing. We put our baggage into it, no matter what we see. I mean, that's kind of the old quantum physics principle. Do you want to see a wavy line or do you want to see a particle? And you're going to see what you expect to see. So you do not see a neutral particle or wave. You see what you're expecting. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's what it means. I think, my interpretation of it. And just as a comment, you guys said when you're reading this, like, it made no sense. I am as shocked as anybody that I kept doing the Course in Miracles over the years. I've been doing it, because honestly, I didn't understand it either. And I was like, why did I keep going with it? I have no idea. Something about it just felt like it was my path. I mean, I'm a real seeker anyway. I've always loved spiritual things and I've read lots of books. But I don't know why. I just kept going back to Course in Miracles year after year until finally it started making sense. But even now when I go through it again, it's like, oh yeah, or oh, that's what that means. I mean, I still, have those insights and things, because I think ideally you want to get where Holy Spirit is sort of leading your curriculum, is guiding your curriculum, to where you don't even need to read the book. You literally just kind of hook in and go, okay, Holy Spirit, what's on tap for today? One of the things I kind of like to say, and I had done a blog post about this a long time, I get up and I go, now what would a being of light do today? That's a good question to ask yourself. What would a being of light do today? And then, you just listen to see what you buzz in from the light, from the big light.
I love that visual.
Mhm.
How amazing.
I-
And thank
I
you.
like-
Thank you for sharing that. Linda?
Yes.
I like the part that it's interactive, as in you read something and do it that day. You don't have to wait to get to the end of a chapter and say, what was that main thought for that chapter? And then also where you do it 3 times a day, the first time you may go, what? And then you do it anyway. And then the second and third time it gets more comfortable and it's not as new and it's easier to accept for people like me. Anything new, I have to like kind of stop and think about it. So, and I like the part that to me, it's interactive because we're acting on it every day. And then I see how you're building on one thing on another. So that's good. I wanted to say my favorite one is I think it was 15. Make it fun, make it yours.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Be suspicious of that voice in your head that does not have your best interest at heart. And I have been listening to that one more than the other one. And you said that time is limited and the other voice is a lot gentler and it points to more spiritual things. So, and that is kind of where I was with the meditating. I couldn't get past that old voice into the new voice. So that helped me a lot with that. And, your thoughts are images that you've made. So just change your thought and change your images. It doesn't have to be that way. You can change it. So
Right.
I like the control part of it. I like to think I'm in control, although I'm not, but I have control of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I say in one of my books, I don't know if I have it in here, but it's almost like housebreaking a puppy. You just keep taking it outside, your thoughts outside, and showing them a different reality, until eventually eventually it gets it. And, sometimes you have to keep doing it again and again and again, and even 20 times a day or whatever. But eventually you start, like today, when it says, I am determined to see, you kind of start repeating it a little bit more often. And then it becomes a little bit more natural. And again, I think it's just a really good point to realize this is our natural way of being. What we're going for is what is natural, what is normal, what is already there. And it's not something we have to manufacture or manifest or call up. It's there. And that's kind of cool. And in fact, at the same time we see disaster and destruction, it's still there underneath that. You know what I mean? It's still there. So that's really cool too. It's going on, whether we're aware of it or not. And I love knowing that. So when my little pea brain or my little ass hat, as I call it in the book, gets going on some fear or worry, it's good to know that underneath that, this other reality is also still going on. And that's a real comfort for me.
It's like
that was actually one of my questions for you I had was if you ever, even with this involved, because I'm like, some of these things I've known for years, but I have to keep being reminded at times. And I was going to ask you if that is something that does happen to you as well.
I think it's a continual, probably as long as we have bodies, we'll probably continue to, fall off the tracks every now and then. I think there's some people that literally wake up all at once. I really do believe that. Like, I think Byron Katie, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, or Eckhart Tolle. I think there are people that just wake up and they leave behind all these other thoughts. But I think for most of us, it really is a gradual process, and that we just continue to take that puppy back outdoors, So that's kind of how I see it. So yes, to answer your question, I still have to keep taking my puppy back outdoors from time to time. I do think it gets easier, perhaps, or that's, my hope. I kind of look back at how I used to be and how I am now. I mean, I think I do see progress. Just sometimes we forget. Again, the ego will say, you're not getting anywhere. You're not getting it. And that's just the ego trying to convince us to stop or make it complicated or whatever. The ego has a lot of crafty ploys. It definitely does.
I actually started doing the thinking thing the other day, the negative thoughts or the thoughts that go into a big ball of this thought and that thought. And finally, for the first time, I stopped and I said to myself, that voice is full of crap. Just leave. Ignore it. It's not
Wave it
true.
away.
And it quit instead of kept going. So I'm learning.
Good for you. Good for you.
And I have it on Audible, and I have the book because I like to listen. Sometimes when I listen, I get it more than when I'm reading.
Lazy.
But reading is simple with your book.
Well, another thing that's kind of cool resource for this book, there's a couple of web designers in Australia that wrote to me sometime after the book came out and said, hey, can we make an app out of your book? And I said, sure. I mean, I didn't know too much. But anyway, they have now created, and originally I wanted to call the book The Course in Miracles for Badasses, just because I can be irreverent. Anyway, so now this app has opened, they've just introduced the app. And I know quite a few people have downloaded it. And basically, it's the same as the book. It's lessons. Oh, you have it. Cool.
I do have it. I love it.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. It's just sort of easier, or for some people that just prefer apps or prefer to have it on their computer. You mentioned Audible. I mean, there's just, different ways to access it. But I thought that was kind of cool that they wanted to do. It's like, oh, cool. Why not? Yeah, why? Sure.
Harry, when you first posted that and I saw badass, I'm like, this must be a typo. What does badass and A Course in Miracles have to do with each other? I couldn't get it. I was like, what the? And then I looked it up on, I hit my Google Play and I'm like, what is this?
Well, Kathy, you're the very reason that Hay House probably wouldn't let me use that title. All my other titles in my books, or the titles I came up with, but Hay House, I mean, it was until the very end of the book process, the editing process, we finally settled on a title. That was my original title. But then I didn't really, the title that it ended up with wouldn't have been my choice, but that's kind of, it was like the book's going to press, we have to settle on a title. I mean, one of my possible titles was Course in Miracles for Slackers. Again, making it easy. I was going to call it Course in Miracles, the fun version. And it does say that on the back of the book. But I mean, I had a lot of other ideas that to me would have been a better title. But again, usually the author gets to make up their mind on the title. They have the final say. But in this case, they were like, no, we don't want to do badass. And the main reason they said that is that it wouldn't translate. My books tend to get translated into other languages. So they said badass won't translate into German. I don't know what it would be in German or Spanish or, whatever. So that was their reasoning for why they didn't want the badass. But also your point, too, that some people would be offended by that particular term.
Oh, I'm not offended. I think it's great. But it was like odd to look at. It was
yeah.
Yeah, I love the app, Pam. I'm so glad that I have it. And it's just so simple. I turned that on. I do read the book part 2, but it's just like a condensed of the book. And, when we first started this book club, there was a little question that we ask everybody. So I want to ask you,
okay.
Do you prefer to hold a book in your hand or do like Audible or the Kindle? Which is your preference?
I'm still a book reader. I have it in my hand. I really prefer that. So yes, I have my copy right here too. So, that's my preference. I mean, I'm glad there's other ways to access it. And as a traveler, although I haven't been traveling this year with the pandemic, but as a traveler, it is easy to take more books, if you have it on a Kindle. So there are advantages to that as well. But I'm an old school, I want the book kind of person.
Yeah, I think that was most of us, right, guys?
Yeah.
I don't even think it's so much old school because I know a lot of teens that also prefer holding the book. There's just something rather magical or special about holding that book. Even the smell of a book.
Yeah.
It gets all your senses into it.
I have to throw in something though. I have the combination book and app, and I love it because I have the book, but when I'm out and about and I have a thought, I can really quick pull my phone out, and see the exercise on the app. So I do
There
both.
are advantages.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
yeah.
I was
And you, like she said, for traveling, you can't take all your books with you.
No,
Look at Terry. Look what she had to leave behind to do
yes,
it.
enough with
I
her.
think Linda and Stacy have all my books.
Yeah.
But- yeah.
Thank you.
And I do miss holding the
Yes,
books. I
thank
do
you.
have a few, but yeah, the digital version has done well for me as I've been traveling. So I appreciate the opportunity to have it that way so that I can keep up with things.
You know,
Stacy?
I was reading our lesson today when 1 + 1 = 3. And I had this thought about, I wrote it down in my, on my thing, that for me, renewal is always constant in my head, because, you talked about, being oppressed and the oppressor, and being bullied and being the bully. And, and sometimes, and then needing to have a winner or a loser. And I have people in my life that want to be the winner. They don't like the whole concept. It's a male, of course, and it's, I'm not going to say.
No offense,
Poor
Charlie.
Charlie.
But it's almost, no offense, Charlie. I don't mean
Yeah.
anything by that. But he always, I think it's a masculine trait that we've raised a lot of young men into thinking that they have to win. They have to be the winner. It's an injustice to them in many ways, but that, I find that when I'm around a conversation with them, I feel an outsider to that conversation because I don't relate to that concept at all. A long time ago, before, when they bring up things like, oh, well, there's no winners anymore. These kids don't get it. We're doing a disservice to this generation by not, everybody gets an award, no matter if they won or they lost. Everybody has to get an award. And they say, you need to have a goal to accomplish. And I think, yes, they're right. We need a goal, but the goal doesn't have to be coming in first or being the winner. The goal can be the sense of accomplishment within ourselves that allows us to then share that goodness with the whole world. But I feel like if I say that to them, they're not going to get it. They're on a whole different plane, and they don't choose to get it. They don't want to get it, so I might plant a little seed here or there, but never with the intent of winning them to think like I do, because I don't think that we're just on the same plane. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, you're going to see all kinds of different beliefs out there for sure. But one thing that I like about the course is it really is showing us there's a part of me that also wants to win. You know what I mean? Like everybody I see out there is kind of a reflection of me, And so I sort of like that little system of how it works, is that I get to see in these bad guys, what I might call, I guess, a part of me that I know I still have and that I can still heal. Like one of my favorite stories, and I don't know if you guys have gotten to this one yet, but it's something I've blogged about, is the Ho'oponopono, about that psychiatrist that killed his entire psychiatric unit by simply saying to himself, please forgive me, I love you, I'm sorry, thank you. And he didn't even ever see any of the patients. He just kept saying that himself, just again, healing himself. And then so everybody else. So I guess in some ways, I don't feel responsible for the people out there. I just feel like they're showing me something that I still need to clean up within my own psyche, yes, or whatever. So anyway, I say thank you to them. Thank you for that belief. Thank you for that crusty old belief that, we all kind of share sometimes. Like I heard a really cool story about this, I'm really big into the gift economy, and it's all about thankfulness and, giving gifts and that kind of thing. But anyway, so it was some anthropologist was visiting some tribe or whatever, and they had gone out and, killed an elk or whatever, and he asked him, he said, well, how are you going to store, what you don't eat, what your family doesn't eat? And he's like, I'm going to give it away. And they're like, don't you need to save? You know, what he wanted is for his whole culture, his whole society to be well and healthy. And I think that to me is what ultimately I want. You know, I would be just as proud. You know, people go, oh, I want to have a really cool car, a really cool house. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that. But what I want is to have a really cool society, you know, where everybody shares and everybody loves. I mean, can you imagine how cool that could be? And that is our natural way of being that we've, you know, diverted with these other crazy ideas about we have to win and lose and somebody's wrong and blah, 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 you know? So anyway, it's just kind of cool. And I think to me, what this change of today means is a really big chance to truly, completely do it a whole different way. And I even kind of feel gratitude perhaps for, you know, having been shown a way that it doesn't work, you know? So anyway, I think there's a real hope that we really can do things differently. I don't want to go back to the way anything used to be. I mean, nothing. I want it to be completely different where everybody, I think as I said in this thing today, everybody gets a seat at the table, everybody.
It's ironic you're talking about gifts, and I got the TV on with the volume down, and they're doing the gift giving ceremonies.
Oh.
It's like, oh my God. He's talking about gifts, and they're giving the gift giving ceremony. So
Yeah, synchronicity is everywhere.
oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah.
Except on my computer. It won't sync. I wanted to tell you, though, I was telling Terry the other day, on 16, you gave us 3 lies, that 3 big lies that were taught. By today, the 20th, in the Course in Miracles, the way you've written it, we've already answered. I mean, we should have the answer to those 3 lies. You know, we are not alone. You know, we aren't limited at all. We can do whatever we want. And then even though I can't see something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, I mean, I think I'm really excited that those 3 lies have been answered, and now I can move on.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, I love that. I love that. I just recently wrote a piece about, you know, what physicists know about the material world, like what we see with our eyes, like the planets, the solar systems, our bodies, this Earth. It is 4% of what's there. So that means 96%. And this is just what we know at this point. And the reason they know this, they call it dark energy, dark matter. That it's not dark, it just means it's invisible. We can't see it, but we know it's there because of the way the gravitational fields work. So we can't see it, which makes it a little hard. But anyway, I just love this idea that what we see, and that's at this point, we know it's 4%. I mean, we'll probably find out it's, you know, 1/10 of 1, or you know what I mean? It's like bigger even than that. But that's what we know. That's what we've been able to prove with, you know, the mathematics and the equations and that kind of thing. But 96% we can't even see. I mean, how cool is that? Or I think it's cool. I mean, some people go, I want to see it.
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool.
You know, Pam, I've been following your blog for years, and I think my first introduction to you was with E Squared, and then I started following your writings. I would love for you to share with everybody, us and the virtual audience, how we can find your blog, because it helps me so much. I get it in my emails, and you've really explained a lot of things in your writings. So I would love all of us to have access to your blogs.
Yes, it's completely free, and I blog. Sometimes I'm in a mood and I blog every day, but you know, typically about once a week or whatever. But anyway, it's just pamgrout.com. If you know my name, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, you know, all over the place with my name. A blog that you can sign up for, and I think there's a couple different ways to sign up for it. Literally, it's completely free. I mean, that's how this whole book started, is I was just blogging about some of the very lessons you're reading now, you know, on my blog. And then again, it was, I was called to turn it into a book. But yeah, so just go to my blog and you can sign up. And I from time to time, will put a little lesson up or something I've been thinking about or something I feel called to share. So yeah.
Thank
I
you.
definitely will sign up for that because I have been very appreciative of having your book to turn to on a daily basis, just to kind of help rein myself in just a little bit. And I'm glad that there's a full 365 days worth of these lessons to kind of help me through some of my more difficult days, as well as see me through some of my happier ones. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I think on my blog, there's something like 700 little blogs, which are all little nuggets of something that can be helpful. So feel free, jump on my blog if you'd like to. And, sometimes I have to go back and read a blog post. I was like, oh, I need to be reminded of that. So it's nice that it's there. It's a good resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were sending, I think it was last year, you were doing the Course in Miracles every day. You were blogging, maybe not every day, but I would get them in my email, and it was really awesome just to be able to spend that time thinking about it. Because I started A Course in Miracles over 30 years ago, and it was difficult. It was really hard to understand it. That, I haven't been the constant student of it, but when you started doing that in your blog, it just made me want to do it again. And so when I saw your book came out, I'm going, oh yeah, now I'm happy. Yeah. So I don't think it was a big thing or a big decision for us to say, oh, we all want to do that.
I'd like to say thank you to you, Terry, for recommending this to the book club.
Great.
Yeah, it was a very good suggestion.
Thank you. Yeah, we've done some really awesome books, but I think this one, we have been so excited about doing this. And like I said, we have a chat going on, a private chat, and we're all just like, I love this lesson today, or I don't understand this lesson today. So it's a good thing that we will continue to be doing throughout the year, even though, we're spending the month of January on this book and then going on to our next one. But we will be continuing to discuss this book every day on the chat as well. Just wanted to let you know that.
That's great. So what's your next book that you're doing for February?
We are doing Green Lights by Matthew Mcconaughey.
Oh, that's fun. I haven't read that one yet, but I've heard several interviews that he's done. It sounds really cool.
Yeah,
it does.
It's great.
We're keeping our opportunity open that Matthew Mcconaughey might want to come and join us.
Oh my goodness. If he's on here, make sure you invite me. I'll come back.
Oh,
too.
yeah, definitely, Pam, you're invited in anytime you want to come in. But I was listening to him the other day talking about the book, and he was saying how he's been journaling his whole life pretty much. And that's how his book came to be. It was like he was reading back through some of his journal entries, and it's like, hey, this is pretty good. So I'm excited about reading that book as well.
Speaking of journaling, you've got me journaling. For me to journal, it's like pulling teeth. But with your book, every day I read my lesson and I write a comment. And so now I'm excited about journaling, not just on this book, but all kinds of things. So
that's awesome. I think everybody has a different avenue, where spirit comes in. But for me, that little notebook, that to me is where so much comes in. That it's just such an important thing. So you may find that too if you're feeling called to start journaling, because I do think, I don't know, it just sort of opens you up to ideas that your little brain might not have, when you're just thinking. It also helps me formulate what I think. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of good benefits from journaling. And I don't know if that's for everybody, but it certainly has been a powerful tool for me. So let me know, Jean, how it goes.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, I'm journaling also. How about everybody else? Is everybody journaling with this book?
I am.
I am. And between this book and Sherry Myers's book, I finally got the permission, I guess. Again, my own thought process here. I was envisioning something totally different that I was supposed to be doing for journaling. And between Sherry and this book, it's like, no, it's okay if it's just a few words that mean something, or a picture, or it just gave me that permission instead of, I felt like I wasn't writing enough stuff down, or I don't know. I was having hangups too. And so, yes, I have journaled every single lesson so far. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And like you, Christine, I've always done journaling, but I would write out, like sentences, paragraphs, a whole page. And with this, it's like these thoughts keep coming. And so it's just a thought and sometimes just a word. So it doesn't have to be in any convoluted sentence form. And that's what I love. And I think that's what the course is doing for me, especially. It's like, let's erase those old constructs, let's erase those beliefs that it has to be a certain way and let it come the way it's going to come.
Yeah. I think I said last week, I used to think I had to write Dear Journal. And then, and then the other day, my whole thing was just like WTF. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the only thing I could think of. And I was like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I understand that, trying to find, I have like 4 journals going at the same time because I have different places for where I want different things. And so like your book right now is with my gratitude journal. I don't know, it just fit in right with that. Because again, for yours, you don't have to write a whole bunch of something down. Just a sentence or 2, just to remind you of the lesson of the day. And that's how I think it fits in well with the gratitude journal. Because the hardest thing for me daily is to list 5 things that I'm grateful for, especially when I wake up in the morning and it was a rough night sleeping because my dog woke me up to go to the bathroom at midnight. And then my husband decides his glucose is going to go low on him again. And I have to worry about him all night. So yeah, I wake up in the morning thinking, yeah, I'm grateful, all right. So, but I do my daily readings and my spiritual guidance readings every morning, and the Course of Miracles comes in with that, and that's when I write the little blurbs that I do, and then my other journals are more in depth.
Great.
What's going
I
on
did
in life.
a little TEDx talk, and it was, I don't remember the exact title of it, but when the beginning of the talk, I said, today I want to introduce you to this book that's the most important book you could ever want to know. And I said, you're probably wondering it's the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever. But then I pull out from under the carpet, it's this notebook, this 99-cent notebook. And from that notebook, my entire career, my entire life has unfolded. So to me, and that was what my TED Talk was about, it was about creativity, and accessing those muses or whatever. But anyway, to me, that journal is the most important book. And I've got like thousands of them. Maybe that might be an exaggeration. I've got hundreds of them that I've done over the years. I tend to do one at a time, like Kathy. You know what I mean? But then I finish one and I go on to the next one. But anyway, to me that is a real powerful tool. Like I said, it's probably my main tool, other than my Course in Miracles.
I love journaling because if you look back years ago and you're reading your journals and you're going and going, you can see the process of how you have become this different person and what you were worried about before, what was bothering you before. You've kind of written it through and thought it through and healed it by the end. At least that's my process for journaling and how it makes me feel.
Yeah, and even, with your book next month, this is the story that I heard Matthew McConaughey say, is that, back when he was still working as a bartender at a bar when he was in college, he'd written down that he was going to win an Oscar, he was going to, write a book, whatever, all these things. And then he found his journal, and he hadn't been looking at it or doing affirmations. He found it's like, oh my goodness, all that stuff that I wrote in my journal has come to pass. So it's kind of remarkable. And that is what's pretty fun about finding the old journals and seeing, wow. And I mean, he didn't even remember writing that. It's just, but it was there, and it was, doing its little work because he'd written it down, made that intention. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I have to be the taskmaster here and keep us on time. We have thoroughly enjoyed this today, Pam. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us. Yeah. I want to say hello to everybody that joined in with us virtually. We've had a lot of beautiful comments and people that do have the book or just got the book. And I want to just restate the website for Pam, where you can go follow her blog, is pamgrout.com. And just go in and you'll find the blog and sign up for it, and you'll be getting it into your emails. I love it. And we love this book so much. And anybody that wants to come in with us each week, we have a group on Facebook called the Soul Food Book Club. And you can come join in and come on the Zoom with us each week. We do love it. This has become a real highlight of my week, is to come in here with all of these beautiful people. Pam, I just would like to ask if there's anything you want to leave us with.
No, just big gratitude for being here. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so happy that you guys do this. It'll make me happy every Wednesday at this time from now on. I'll be thinking about you guys. Who knows? I might even pop in again one of these days. But anyway, thank you. Just a big thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for following through and creating such a wonderful gift to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it keeps on giving.
Absolutely. It's a book that we'll read over and over again. I know I will. So again, thank you, Pam, and thank you everyone who watched, and continue with us here at Enlightened World Network. There's lots of positive programming. We're doing 10 days of 24-hour streaming of positive programs that are uplifting. It may be a meditation, it may be a discussion like this. You never know what you're going to get. So just if you're feeling that moment of, I just need something right now to center me, hop on over to Enlightened World Network. And thank you so much, and come back with us next week. And we'll see you then. Bye, everybody. And we always end our shows with
Namaste.
Namaste, y'all.
Bye.